With the recording. Okay, so it's a great pleasure for me to introduce Chriag Bellara. Chriag is a student in the Department of Computer Science and worked in the laboratory of data science. Is interested in many areas of data science, machine learning, and he has experience across disciplines from physics to the social sciences. And today we'll talk about something worked on for a few months, namely digital twins. So today he's gonna tell us what they are and how important they are in the current data science age. So Chirag, please.
Yep. Thank you so much for that introduction. So I'm Chirag. I was working as a junior data scientist over the course of my summer, where I mainly researched into digital twins. And I'm going to be presenting my findings into what digital twins are, and maybe give a short introduction into what is the application of digital twin in today's world. What are some issues that we are facing currently, and what are some possibilities for the future? So just from the very start, what is a digital twin? So, digital twin, in my opinion, is a topic that's not really talked about a lot, but it has immense application. It has applications across every field that we can think of. So, in a very general manner, a digital twin is nothing but a virtual replica of anything that exists in this physical world. So, it can be anything. It can be a vehicle. It can be an entire system. It can even be a human body. So, but when we go into like depths of it, that is when we realize how powerful actually digital twins are. That's when we are. So let me give you like a very technical definition of what a digital twin actually is. A digital twin is nothing but a representation of a system in the virtual world, which spans across the entire lifetime of the system, keeps on getting updated with real-time data, uses simulation techniques and data optimization and machine learning algorithms to provide insights into the working and the intricacies of the physical system. Uh, One very prominent example of a digital twin is when most airline companies they have digital twins of their aircrafts, where like mainly of their engines, which essentially they use to optimize their engines because it's very expensive to like keep on testing on physical entities. So just they create like digital twins of those entities and experiment on them, different techniques, different fuel combinations to see what works best for them. And that's once this testing phase is done, it's then implemented into the real world for the final test. And if it works, we have a real working product with almost less than like one-fourth the cost. So text, right. So one question that I was asked initially was, do we really need digital twins? The short answer is yes, we definitely do. But why do we need digital twins? It's some very like the thought that comes to my mind and the very first thing is it improves your efficiency. It reduces the cost of experimentation, reduces the cost of research, it reduces the risks that are involved in such research and such experimentations. It allows you to have a more in-depth insight into how a system actually works. Essentially, it gives you increased visibility about what a system is actually about, like from the in-depths of it. It allows us to have an opportunity to optimize our system in a way that we've never had until now. Because now that we can basically look inside a system, we know what exactly is happening, what needs to be changed, what needs to be done in order to make it better. The next thing we can think of is, where did this concept of digital twin actually come from? So digital twins are as old as the 1960s. Though the term itself was coined in somewhere around 2010, but the concept of digital twins was being used since the 1960s. NASA implemented digital twins, which were not called digital twins back then, but they implemented something similar to digital twins for the Apollo 13 spacecraft, where essentially they had a copy of the Apollo 13 aircraft on the ground while the main module was in space. And if there were any issues or any errors that they encountered in space, they just replicated those on ground, solved those issues on ground, and just implemented the final solution onto the spacecraft. Digital twins went through a lot of evolutions. They went through a lot of name changes per se, where they were earlier called as mirror worlds and mirror space models, then virtual counterparts. And then in 2010, the term digital twins was coined in NASA's technological roadmap. Since 2010, digital twins have gained a lot of traction. We have seen the implementation of digital twins by very big organization. Like, for example, right now we have something called as Digital Singapore, which is essentially a replica of the entire country of Singapore, where they have used that replica in order to identify possible issues with their with their planning, their layout of the city, layout of different cities and just stuff like that in order to optimize the lives that people are living there. The next thing is, how does a digital twin actually work? So a digital twin essentially has three parts. One's the virtual model, one's the physical entity, and then there is a data link that connects both. So what really happens is the virtual model learns from the physical entity via the data link, and it keeps on updating itself until it reaches a point where it can successfully know what the physical model will be doing in real time. And then it can use its machine learning and data analysis to identify issues or problems that might occur in the physical world at some point in time. So, with all this definition and everything, a digital twin sounds eerily similar to a simulation, but there's in fact a very big difference between a simulation and a digital twin actually. A simulation is static. It does not get updated with data. Like a simulation is just you create a simulation once and it remains that way throughout. A digital twin is active. It keeps on getting enough like new data again and again in order to update itself to in order to become a better version of the digital twin that we started with. A simulation is the depiction of how a system behaves, like what is possible in the system. A digital twin is the system itself. Like in very broad terms, digital twin is the system. It's the actual system, just a virtual replica of it. So whatever happens in the actual system happens in the digital twin. In a simulation tells you what could be possible, like one of the few possibilities that might happen in the real world. A digital twin gives you accurate and actual information. There is always a continuous data exchange in a digital twin. Like there's data going from the digital twin into the physical world and from the physical world into the digital twin. But in a simulation, that does not happen. It's just there's just initial loading of data and it remains as it is. So, what are the applications of digital twins in the real world actually? So, we just deal with four of the main industries out there. But digital twins are essentially used all across the industry right now to optimize processes, to reduce costs, to make risk mitigations, to make lives better of the people who are working in these industries. So, first, we talk about the healthcare industry. Essentially, in the healthcare industry, digital twins are used in multiple layers, but the most important use of digital twins has to be the possibility of providing personalized treatment and therapy. Essentially, what happens is a digital twin is created of the human body or of a particular human organ, and experiments are run on it. The drugs are being tested on it, and whatever works best is then implemented in the real world on the real patient. This not only reduces the chance of possible drug failures, but also allows us the possibility to make the treatments specific to a particular individual. This can also be used in research and development of new drugs, new treatments in order to optimize the healthcare industry right now. Another important use of digital twins is education and training, which is essentially uh, right now all we learn for the most part what we learn from are from books or maybe like in some cases some 3D models. But a digital twin would give you an actual insight into the human body and tell us all about what really happens in the real world. And that is a learning experience like no other, honestly. The next industry that we talk about is the manufacturing industry. In the manufacturing industry, there are several places where a digital twin can be used, the most important of them has to be to reduce the overall cost of operations. Essentially, what really happens is a digital replica is created of the entire manufacturing plant, and places are identified which have a possibility of uh, causing wastage of resources or wastage of money. And this is once it's identified, a solution is implemented in the digital world. If it works, it's implemented in the real world. And so this gives us an opportunity to try and test a few possible solutions to come up with the best thing that actually would work. It not only allows you to reduce the wastage, but also allows you to ensure high quality standards. How does it do that? So a digital twin essentially is the most accurate implementation of a real world product. And computers will work the same way, irrespective of anything that changes outside. So a digital twin will always maintain its quality standards, irrespective of any human factors or any material issues. It will always maintain its quality standards. Once it does that, we know what the highest quality of the product would look like. Hence, and since it maintains its standards, the the quality standards in the real world can be compared to see what is lacking, where are we lacking. The next thing is the architecture industry. So architecture industry, just as I told you about the Digital Singapore project, the architecture industry benefited a lot from digital twins because now uh, we don't need to like go in without planning or like just like overlay like basic planning. We can actually plan an entire construction, an entire simulation, an entire digital twin, and then implement it in the real world to the best of the outcomes. This allows us to reduce the cost, ensure safety, ensure that the quality standards are met. It also allows us automated project control, which essentially means that since a digital twin has been created, we know the best way in order to pursue that construction, which would allow us to have an automated control, as in we don't need to go back to the beginning and think of like, okay, now this is done, what's the next step, what's the next step? No. So we have a set flow that needs to be followed. The last thing is the automotive industry. Everybody has heard of Tesla, and Tesla is one of the big companies that implement digital twins in all of their vehicles. A digital twin for the it essentially a Tesla itself is a digital twin. Every Tesla car has a digital twin of itself. But when we talk about like the most important use of digital twin in a Tesla vehicle, it has to be the battery pack, because the battery pack turns out to be one of the most important selling points of a Tesla. So a digital twin of the battery pack is created, which essentially keeps a track of what's happening in the real vehicle. And if there are any issues or anything that really goes wrong in the real world, the digital twin has already predicted that and implemented a solution to it. It not only does that, it allows us to perform monitoring, predictive analytics, and defect detections way before they actually occur, and roll out software updates or call in for hardware updates if necessary. Now we know that digital twins are very useful in the industry, but as it happens with every technology, there have to be some limitations and there have to be a few challenges. The most important challenge of a digital twin is the concern with data privacy and security. As I said, that a digital twin is something that constantly gets updated with new data from the real world. The concept of data privacy is really hanging along a thread because we get everything that's about the real world into a virtual world. So let's say, for example, we consider a system that replicates a human body. We are getting every bit of information about the human body into the digital world. That raises a few questions about security of the data that's being processed. Also, standardization is a big problem because right now digital twins are not implemented at a very large scale. So there are no specific standards that are to be followed in every implementation. That basically what that does is if I am implementing a digital twin system, and if somebody else is implementing the same system, it's possible that we would be following different standards or different ways to go about it. This reduces the chances of interoperability because what that does is, since most of the systems that we use right now are classical systems, they do not have like digital twin implementation to them right now. The possibility of implementing a digital twin of a system and having it work with the existing system brings up the question of interoperability, because there has to be a certain way things have to there have to be a certain uh, a channel through which the data has to go, through which the classical system needs to go into a digital world, and that currently does not exist. Now, another thing is the ethical considerations. Uh, it arises from the same data privacy and security issues, but ethics are something that are being highly regarded in the world of technology right now. With the advent of ChatGPT and all AI models, ethical considerations are something that are definitely in question when it comes to even digital twins. This essentially would lead us to a point where there would be standardization, there would be a specific method that's to be followed, and a certain barrier that should not be crossed in a digital twin. The last thing is definitely the cost of operation and maintenance. Though digital twins in the long run reduce the cost of operations, reduce the like they definitely save you a lot of money. The initial setup of a digital twin is expensive, and this is one of the reasons why there are not many applications of digital twins like that are being used by people like me, like researchers like everybody else. These are essentially limited to big corporations who have the resources to build such a system that would allow them to create a digital replica of something and use it. So there are definitely challenges that need to be tackled, some limitations as well, which all need to be, they all, again, digital twin is a very new technology according to me. And it's going to take a few years until we get a point where digital twins are implemented the way right now we have machine learning models. We have free models available for use to everybody. There's soon going to be a point in time where we will have digital twins available to be used and customized for everybody. And that is the future of digital twins. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Shira, for the great presentation.
Thank you.
So, so I have one question about so I think one of the things that we noticed also during your work is there are it's hard to have now some theoretical understanding of the digital twins. So you talked about
Mhm.
challenges from, let's say, computer science perspective. There is also this one, like if most of the papers have different theoretical definitions of what digital twin is,
Yeah.
and often they kind of have you explained well what's the difference between a digital twin and simulations and stuff like that. And sometimes
Mhm.
what people end up doing when they try to have some sort of result or stuff like that end up doing just basically results on simulations instead of exactly
Correct.
digital twins.
Correct. Yes. So essentially, like the line between a digital twin and a simulation is pretty fine, but it's there because a simulation is something that never gets updated, essentially. So it's created once and that's it. It never really gets updated. But a digital twin is something that keeps on constantly updating with new data. So if there is a sudden change in the system, a sudden, let's say there is a big error that shows up in the physical world, our simulation would never catch that. A simulation would consider that as the behavior of the system and just go ahead with it. But a digital twin can identify that that's something that's not supposed to happen and work around according to that in order to fix that issue, maybe. So yes, there is a fine line between digital twins and simulations. Although there are many applications where they both are can be used simultaneously or like often intersect with each other. But maintaining that fine line would be essential in order for us to have a point in time where digital twins are available for usage for everybody, because digital twins, as I said, the initial cost is the only thing that is expensive. In the long run, it definitely saves a lot of money and resources. Simulations have to be maintained irrespective. They have to have the same computational power over time. So like people like me, we cannot use simulations on our normal systems unless we have special softwares associated to them. But digital twins will be able to cross that line and we'll be able to use them on our normal systems irrespective.
Awesome. Other questions?
So you talked
Yeah.
about a number of areas where
Mhm.
digital twins can be used. Looking out, let's say in the next 20, 30,
Mhm.
40
Yeah.
years, do you see some other places that they might be possibly be used in addition to the ones you mentioned?
Oh, definitely, most certainly. So, like, I read about this recently that in the year 2020, NVIDIA announced that they are planning to create the digital twin of planet Earth. Which is, I mean, when you think of it, it just sounds like why and why, honestly. But it allows them to essentially predict weather patterns, predict occurrences of natural phenomena, monitor the movement of tectonic plates. So that's again, it's geography. And that allows the use of digital twins to enter the field of geography. And again, that would allow, so if it enters the field of geography, it can enter every possible field. So some other places where digital twins will definitely be used is uh, the creation of quantum computers, semiconductors, most computer science based applications. So automotive industry right now, it's only Tesla that essentially uses it on a very big scale, but that's going to expand, and we will have companies go more and more into digital twins as soon as we have the standardization and the ethical issues sorted out.
Do you know how many researchers around the world or in this country are looking, in academia into this
Mhm.
subject matter?
I so initially when I was doing my initial literature survey, I did not find a lot of research that's being done into digital twins, mainly because there does not seem to be enough resources available for independent researchers in academia to look into such into the possible applications and development of digital twins. So it is a topic that's taken up by essentially big corporations or institutes that have a funding backing them. So there is not a lot of independent researchers that are actually looking into it. So
Thank you.
yeah,
Awesome, great. So I shared
yeah.
actually a link about, while Chirag
Mhm.
was talking about this Digital Reefs project, which I believe is funded through NSF, which is some sort of digital is copy of the coral reef and
Yeah.
see how that's going. So that's another interesting thing. In the meantime, want to thank Chirag for the great presentation.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much, and was really interesting, very detailed, and a lot of fun information and things to think about. Okay, so
Yep.
thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your talk. It was great.
Yes. Thank you. Yep.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
very much.
much. Yep. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.